on? What's going on, world? Welcome to another weekly edition of the 100 Yards and Running. We have a week 8 to talk about. We got some breaking news to talk about. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to those who needs to get well. I'm praying for y'all physically and mentally. We here for you. But let's bring on my brother, August Stevens.
Yo, what's good,
What's
man?
going on, brother?
Another day, man. Another week of football. I love it. Let's
An-
get it.
Another week of football. We're going to start off with some breaking news. We're going to start off with the Indianapolis Colts. After playing a tough game this weekend, quarterback Jason Richardson has been benched for the upcoming week.
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson. Thank you for the correction, my brother. Anthony Richardson from the Indianapolis Colts. Plans on he's sitting out this game, and they're going to go with Flacco going in against the Vikings next week. After playing
Uh,
Houston, he wanted to pull himself out of the game and told his coach he was tired. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, man. I think at this point the Colts are really kicking themselves because they thought that when they drafted Anthony Richardson as high as they did, that they found their next Andrew Luck, their next Peyton Manning, right? And neither one of those guys have ever said to their coach, "I'm tired. I need a break. Take me out." That's not how this works, man. You're getting paid millions of dollars for your athleticism. And right now, you just showed the world, forget the Indianapolis Colts, but you just showed the world that you really aren't made of much. And all we got to do is get you tired for us to win the game. And that is a big problem. I look, I wouldn't invest any more in this kid because if someone tells you something the first time, believe them. And right now, he told them he is not the franchise quarterback. He's not the head of the table, and he needs to be benched and possibly released.
Here's my thoughts on after hearing that. Quarterbacks, any type of play, I don't care what position you play in the NFL, you sign up to do this. You go to college to do this. This is the love of football. This is what we're here for. And this is us talking as fans from the outside looking in.
Yep.
This is what we are here for. We here to watch you guys put on a show. And for you to sit there and say that you are tired, coach, pull me out. Is this is what you get drafted in the league to do? You see, once these players get into their bag, it's like we don't see your work. We don't see the athleticism that you can put on the field. Once you get the bag, you're sloppy. You're missing your routes. You blame the coordinators and the defensive coordinators. It's not their job to get you right, and that is just unacceptable.
I'm,
Unacceptable.
I mean, the crazy thing about it, man, is this man, he hasn't really been right with the Indianapolis Colts since they drafted him. I mean, they've pulled him out. He's been injured a lot. They put Joe Flacco in a whole bunch. And now it's almost like it's blatant. Because see, now I have to think if you actually do get hurt, are you going to drag it out because you just don't want because you do know in order to get your money, all you have to do is show up to the game. That's why those injured quarterbacks be on the sidelines for the games. You see the guys wearing t-shirts because they need their money. And if I am the Indianapolis management, I have to believe that this kid, he's gonna try to pull something like that. Because if you're tired and you want to be pulled out of the game, imagine if he actually gets hurt. He is going to whimper and hold that out as long as he can. And that's not it. That's not what a franchise quarterback should be. That's not what I want the rest of the NFL to look at my franchise as. And you gotta go.
Moving on to the that is unacceptable. Speaking of this game, and this is a heartbreaker for Houston. I feel bad for this one. Houston losing wide receiver Stephon Diggs for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. I spoke about this the last 2 weeks, and this goes back to what I said. I think it was week 6 when fans go out here and praising and clapping when a player is putting their body on the line to get injured, let alone an ACL tear. Now we've seen players come back from this and bounce back and pick up where they left off. But my take on this is these fan bases. It's unacceptable to be cheering a receiver that puts his body on the line each week for us to entertain us, and to cheer that is unacceptable.
Now, I understand your point. And in this subject, I believe every situation is different. And what I mean by that is, I don't think it's right for them to cheer that Stephon Diggs is injured. He's done nothing but be a vital part of the organization since he got here. He was the number one receiver for a reason, and even when he wasn't exactly making plays, he was a decoy. It's a much different situation than from Deshaun Watson. You know,
Mm.
we live in a day and age where women are especially protected as they should be. Um, and so for Deshaun Watson to have these accusations, I can understand why people would turn against him. But Stephon Diggs, yeah, he's a little bit of an asshole. But he's an asshole because he wants to win. And that's the difference between the two. And I don't think that he should be cheered because he was injured. And that's really disappointing. Um, Fortunately for the Houston Texans, they have 1 week. They have 1 week before the trade deadline, and they can still get a playmaker in here to help CJ Stroud and the rest of that offense to go on for the rest of the year and to really make some noise in the playoffs because they've lost some vital pieces on their offense. And I think it's important now more than ever that they go and get a piece.
Staying on Houston, they have a short week. They got the New York Football Jets coming up Thursday night. Jets fans, I hate to say this because we're on this topic, and you're playing Houston this week. Your season is over. You're 2-6 between the Jets, the Giants, the Jags, and a couple of other 2-6 teams.
The Saints,
The Saints is in that category. Here's
yeah,
my take on what I'm seeing from that. You
yeah,
guys are fighting for next year's draft right now.
yeah, man.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If I'm the New York Jets, I'm draft. If I'm the New York Jets and the New York Giants, I'm looking at the quarterbacks in college football
I
right
mean,
now.
I mean, so you gotta think about this, man. All of these teams, and that's crazy that all of them are 2-6, man. But you know, you gotta you're fighting, like you said, for your draft spot. And I know people don't like to hear, oh, we're tanking to get the great draft spot. But honestly, it's tank now, be successful later. You need to tank in order to get the pieces that you need. Because right now, prime example, a team like the New Orleans Saints, man, they got a head coach that doesn't know what he's doing,
Hmm.
an offense that just seems to be lackluster and disabled. And then, the one thing that your head coach is supposed to be good at, which is defense, you've been giving up 220 yards rushing every game for the past 3 games. That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So for all these teams, they're fighting so they can improve their team. That's where we're at. Because none of them are going to make a miraculous turnaround and all of a sudden be a threat in the playoffs. It's not going to happen.
Speaking of miraculous turnaround, ladies and gentlemen, this is a new session. We are going to call Play of the Week. I'm diving right into it. These two quarterbacks was drafted in the NFL, and Jaden Daniels, and we talk about him all the time. Caleb Williams,
Yeah.
Chicago, Washington. To me, this was a play. That Hail Mary play. Let's talk about it. Now, what was unacceptable to me? You have a player on the Bears defense taunting the crowd, and this is where it bit him.
Mm-hmm.
You're taunting the crowd. You're not paying attention to the field. I think it was about like 3 or 2 seconds left on the shot clock. You leave Jaden Daniels enough room in the pocket. He's dancing around the receivers, and I want you to pay attention to what I'm about to say because this is unacceptable too. Number 53 on that play. He's sitting there moving side to side. His job, you got one job. Keep your eye on the quarterback. Your defender, he's down on the ground. You had him beat. What are you doing? And then your guy that was taunting in the crowd doing all of this, he lets Daniels get the ball in the air. The guy that was taunting, he's the one that tips the ball in the air right into the hands of Brown from Washington. Washington scores a touchdown, wins the game, 15 to 12. In a heartbreaker, Chicago thought they had it, but this one. It been a minute behind. Talk to me.
So I believe that right now what we're seeing is the separation of talents. What I mean is we have a plethora of young quarterbacks: C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, and you know the guy from Chicago. You know, he's not really turning out to be what everybody said that he would be. And you surrounded him with a vast majority of talent on both sides of the ball. So honestly, when these things happen, I
Mhm.
look at you. I look at you. You're the problem. Now, regardless on if they actually drafted you for skill, if they drafted you to, I don't know, make a statement about other things, the bottom line is Chicago has not been very lucky with quarterbacks, and Caleb Williams, he seems to be on that same track. You get rid of Justin Fields, you had Jay Cutler for the longest, and Kyle Orton when you traded, and all of these quarterbacks, none of them worked out, and Jay Cutler was supposed to be one of the top quarterbacks with arm strength. Kyle Orton was supposed to be one of the smartest quarterbacks, you got in that trade. Justin Fields, now he's out there with Pittsburgh and he's doing the things that he's doing. So you have to ask, is it really the quarterback or is it the organization? And in this point, is it both?
We're gonna stay in Pittsburgh because last night, Monday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm sorry, New York, but I have to do this. The Pittsburgh Steelers destroyed the New York Giants, and they didn't even play Justin Fields. Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
This is the second time Russell Wilson beat a New York team. It was the Jets last week. It's the Giants this week. What are you seeing from Pittsburgh? What do you see Mike Tomlin doing with Pittsburgh?
Daniel Jones is trash. I'm going back.
We all know that.
This is what I see, and correct me if I'm wrong. You remember back in the early 2000s how college teams would use two quarterbacks. They would have a passer, and then they would have a guy that could rush, kind of like what the Saints were doing with Taysom Hill, but to a more extensive level, right? Every game, you didn't know who was going to start. Every play, you didn't know who was coming in for this set of downs. I believe that's what Mike Tomlin is doing. I believe that he's using Russell Wilson when he knows it benefits the team, and then he's switching and putting Justin Fields in when he knows it benefits the team, based off of what they have to offer as players. And I could be wrong about that, but it just seems too uh suspect that you're putting in different quarterbacks and then one might be successful and then the next week you're benching him and putting him in for other or vice versa. You know what I mean? I think, and if that is what he's doing, the man is genius. The man is genius because he found a deficiency in his quarterback room and he figured out a way to neutralize the effect.
I mean, let's see it where it takes them. I think Pittsburgh could make a hell of a run in the playoffs. We'll talk about that during the show. Man, we had some games this week, and I'm gonna start with the 7-0 Kansas City Chiefs. I get it that they played the Raiders. I get it that they played Gardner Minshew.
Hey man,
With the Chiefs adding, they did. But the Chiefs just acquiring DeAndre Hopkins
yeah.
from Tennessee, and they just trying to find the pieces. But one thing I give Kansas City, then they got injuries on offense, losing Isaiah Pacheco, losing Rashid Rice. Kelsey, he's not. I mean, he's a good tight end, but how far can Kelsey take you? One thing I give the Chiefs and Andy Reid with Steve Spagnuolo and that defense, the Chiefs are finding a way to win football games. My question to you is, how far do you see Kansas City going with this until somebody actually beats them? And if so, what team do you see beating Kansas City?
Honestly, right now, it's hard to tell. I believe that Kansas City they put their stump on the ground. You know, they put their stamp there, and everyone knows that they are this generation's New England Patriots. And it's kind of weird to look at. You know, if you remember the New England Patriots of the 2000s, they were getting everybody and anybody for cheap. You know, and some of them didn't work out, like they had Chad Ochocinco. You know, but then some of them worked out, like Randy Moss.
Randy Moss, yeah.
Like you had all of these players, and when they signed their extensions, they took less money than what they were worth because Belichick convinced them that if you want to win a ring, then this is what it's going to take. And I believe Andy Reid has taken a page out of that playbook. You mean to tell me, after all those injuries, you bring in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. Now, we all know he's an older Hop, but at the same time, this man is still one of the elite receivers in the NFL.
Yes, he is.
And with a guy like Patrick Mahomes and throwing it to him with his arm strength, I mean, the sky's the limit, you know? So it's kind of crazy because you look at other teams that have injuries and they're just, you know, they don't know which way is up. You know what I mean? But the Chiefs, they're like, we'll just go get this Pro Bowl receiver to come and replace the Pro Bowl receiver we lost. Like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? But right now, Kansas City is that destination that you go to if you want a Super Bowl.
I agree with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do it again. It is time for the worst quarterback of the week. And ladies and gentlemen, guess who I'm giving it to? Guess who I'm giving it to this week? Howdy, y'all. Welcome to Dallas. Woo! Sunday night football. Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers. Dallas just can't get it done when they play San Francisco. Dak Prescott, you never seem to amaze me, my friend. Every week, when I see you on that field, you just simply sit there, you look, you looking, you don't know if you're going to hand it over to your running back, You don't know what your tight end's gonna do. You got CD Lamb over there wide open. Or you thought he was wide open. And what did you do? You threw an interception. You threw an interception. Did you see the look on Jerry's face on Sunday?
Yeah, yeah.
They just can't get over. They just can't get over.
It's crazy. It's crazy because Jerry, he's gonna keep on talking that nonsense to the media. Oh, we're still very much alive and we're in it, and I believe in my players. And Jerry doesn't like to be wrong, which is why Mike McCarthy still has a job, which is why he gave Dak Prescott the extension of a lifetime and he didn't deserve it, which is why CD Lamb got $35 million a year. Look, you spend a healthy 30% of your cap on two players, and it's not showing you any difference, man. You had these guys already. I get it. You don't want to lose your star players, but you need to add pieces. And I'm telling you, Jerry is at the point where he's just too old to do this, I think, man. And he really needs to think about if he really wants to win a Super Bowl again in Dallas, hand it to his son, Steven. Hand it to him, man, because I don't see it happening anytime soon if he keeps on with the shenanigans that he's thus far.
My take on Dallas is this. I'm gonna agree with you. Jerry Jones, he needs to sit down. Jerry, if you're listening, take a back seat. Give the franchise to your son. Look at your offense, all the talented players you got in that locker room. With Diggs coming out on your defense, arguing with reporters.
Yo, that was
You didn't
crazy.
think I was gonna get to that, but we talking about that.
Hey, listen.
You want to argue with reporters?
That man was so upset. It was unreal. He was in there, and the reporter, to his credit, he held his own. He didn't throw a fit. He didn't, go sideways. He's just like, hey, man, if you want to talk about it, then come on, let's talk about it. And that man digs through a fit. You hear me?
Man, this is what's going on in Big D. That's not the team to be. Philadelphia with an impressive victory. And I didn't think they was going to pull this one off, but they did. They beat Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. My question to you is this. How dangerous can Philly be in the playoffs?
I think not this year. They're not going to be very dangerous. And I say this for a reason because Philly, they keep losing the teams they shouldn't lose to, and then they'll beat teams that seem impressive but are not. And let me explain. Everybody thinks Cincinnati is a great win because they had Joe Burrow, but have you seen Cincinnati's record this year? Have you seen the way that Joe Burrow just seems to be off this year?
Yeah.
That entire Bengals organization needs to regroup, and I don't think it's going to be anything serious. And so to say that, like Philly, they desperately need to turn the things around because they got everything that they could possibly need. They have a good defense. They have wide receivers that are balling when you need them to. The problem, if you ask me, is that quarterback, man, Jalen Hurts. And so if they stick with him, if they decide to stick with him, okay, he's going to need a lot more help than you're willing to admit. And I don't think that, they have it this year. It's just not in them. It's not in the cards. Yes, you beat Cincinnati, and that's great. But yeah, no, they're going to have to continue to do something a little bit different and strive to be better.
What I see in Philadelphia right now, with all the talent around Jalen Hurts, if healthy, I think Philly could be one of those teams that could be a threat in the NFC.
Well, that's not saying much, bro. The NFC as a whole, we've had this conversation before. The NFC is up to be grabbed by anybody.
That is true because you got the Lions, the
Right.
Detroit Lions, who just blew out. Detroit after losing A Hutch, you still got players that's stepping up. We keep talking about this man, and he's on my MVP of the week. It's between him and Jaden Daniels for me
Yeah.
right now. And I'm gonna have to put CJ Stroud in there number 3. But what I'm seeing in Detroit and Jared Goff, and a lot of people was telling me this, and I had to see it for myself. Jared needed to go somewhere where he was comfortable.
Yeah.
Jared needed to go somewhere where he controls that whole offense. Let's call it what it is. Jared Goff right now is in control of Detroit.
Hmm.
He calls the plays. The running backs is backing him up.
He has the right head coach, man.
He has the right head coach.
Dan Campbell
I
is a
don't know
player's
what
coach.
Dan Campbell is doing in Detroit,
Yep.
but I got Detroit going to the Super Bowl this year.
Ooh, I don't know about all that, but yeah,
I
we'll
got
see.
Detroit and Kansas City in the
And
Super
look,
Bowl.
and look, and look. The reason I say I don't know about all that, man, is because Detroit is one of those teams that shoot themselves in the foot every year. They have great years where they get to like the NFC divisional championship or they might get to the conference championship and then they shoot themselves in the foot. If Detroit can prove that those days are behind them and they are listening to their head coach and they're going out there with thought-provoking ideas and they're playing well, then yeah, we can see because again, if it's ever a time for Detroit to win a Super Bowl, it is right now while the NFC is still rebuilding.
The NFC is indeed rebuilding. It is. It is indeed. We like I said, we had some impressive games this week. What game to you this week impressed you the most?
Uh, I got it, man. I gotta go back to the Houston Indianapolis game, even though Anthony Richardson and his shenanigans. It was a great game. I mean, there was time I was in the stadium, man, and there was times where like we really thought that the Colts were gonna come back and win this thing. Um, but kudos to the Texans defense. Kudos to CJ Stroud. They held their own and they put it together and they came out with a dub. But you know what I want to do? I want to talk about my suckers of the week, okay? Because there are some teams out there that are just absolutely abysmal in every sense of the word.
Give me your top 5 right now.
Listen, my number one, you already know who it is. The New Orleans Saints. Listen, man, y'all have Spencer Rattler, a young quarterback who could be talented as all hell. And you bench him for Jake Hayner. Now, Jake Hayner was just as bad, if not worse. Yes, he could throw the ball a little further, but his accuracy needs work. And what I hate about it is the losses that Spencer Rattler has on his record. I know for a fact Dennis Allen is going to use that as justification as to why the team was as bad as it was between the injuries, between Spencer Rattler, and it's never going to be on him, and that's the problem. And until he gets out of there, until they get a new coaching regime, the New Orleans Saints are going to be in an abysmal abyss of hell until they correct that. That's my number one overall trash team. Number 2, Cincinnati. Cincinnati, man, y'all have pieces. Y'all have all of the pieces in the world. For whatever reason, Joe Burrow, this is not your season, man. And I hate to say that, LSU alum, had the greatest college season of all time, if you ask me, in my opinion. Um, and it's not coming together this year. This season, you need to sit back and really think about what's happening, what's going wrong, and reevaluate. And then next season, when y'all come back, you need to strike with a vengeance because Joe Burrow is too good of a talent to be wasted. Um, you know, he deserves better. He needs support from the team, and so he has to level up. My number three, the Cowboys. Jerry, listen, as we mentioned before, you have to get it together. You have to get it together. Spending a fraction of your salary cap on two players is unheard of. And just because you throw money at a situation doesn't mean it's going to get better. Just because you have a hand puppet as your head coach does not mean you're going to get better. You need someone who's going to challenge your authority, meaning they know what's better for the team, and you have to be okay with that. Every other owner in the NFL, they are okay with their GMs and their head coaches running the team because that's what you hired them for. Jerry, it's not going to work, man. Sit back, give it to your son, let him run the team, and maybe before you die, you will have another Super Bowl on your hands. The number four, the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, Atlanta, the Kirk Cousins experiment is up. Okay. I don't really care that he won one or two games for you. The experiment is up, and you have Penix sitting there, and you have Kirk Cousins teaching him the wrong habits. Get that kid in there, coach him up the way that you need to, and let the kid ball out. Let him go and ball out. Because if you've seen him in college, there's a reason you drafted him at number 8. Because the kid can play. So let him ball out. Let him go out there and do what he does best. My number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville. Listen, you guys have been on a downward spiral ever since 2019. You let the Cons trade away some of your best players. You got nothing in return. Your play has been abysmal. You have your poor quarterback out there scrambling every single play. This is not what football should be. And if you really are serious about competing, you're really serious about your roster improving, do so. Do so. Get out of the way. Get some actual football people in the building and get to work, man. I'm sorry, but AEW is not going to help the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's not. I agree with that list, but I agree with that list. But I would take the Bengals off and put the Carolina Panthers. And here's why. Carolina, you drafted this kid number 1 overall, Bryce Young.
Yes, I
He
did.
had a few games. I get that he was a rookie, but we've seen it from Peyton when he was a rookie.
Yep.
We've seen it from Eli when he was a rookie. We've even seen it from the great Tom Brady himself.
Yep.
Not every rookie is going to come in the NFL perfect. Not every rookie is going to come in the NFL and be this franchise quarterback that you expect them to be. They're rookies. Carolina needs to get it together. You guys haven't been great since Cam Newton, and look at him now.
Ooh. Hey, if you want to give Cam
I
a call,
don't know
sure.
what's going on, with that team, here's another team I would throw in there.
Hey, real quick, the Carolina Panthers, they're opting for the number one overall pick again right now. So
Again,
make of that how you will.
another team I would have put up there is the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Here's why. Look at Tua. We get that he can throw the ball down the field. That boy got an arm. We get that.
Yes, he
We
does.
get that Tua can scramble with the best of them. We get all that. The problem is the hits that this kid is taking. How many hits and how many concussions is he gonna get until he realizes enough is enough?
Look, man, they have these helmets now. You know those Guardian helmets,
Mm,
where everything is on the outside. They have helmets now. I don't know what they're called, but everything is on the inside, so it looks like a regular helmet. But there are different helmets for linemen, different helmets for quarterbacks. So I would say they're investing in him. The problem would be is just his body. Can he take it, man? If his head gives out again, like, and I mean, if he has another concussion, you have to seriously think about retirement. This is the same reason why Andrew Luck retired. He was like, nah, it's not worth my health. I got my money. I'm about to go out and do something else. And unfortunately, that is just the case with some players. And Tua, you got your money, go out and do something else. That's just where I'm at with it. And that's just to be on the safe side. Because you don't want to go out and continue to play, and then one time is all it takes for you to take that one right hit, and it'll damage you forever.
I got on the Giants. I gotta get on the Jets. You played the Patriots on Sunday.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Brees Hall. It was an okay game for Aaron Rodgers. The Jets was trying. My problem with the Jets, and this is all facts, the Jets are the most penalized team in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is unacceptable. I couldn't watch another down in that game because I could not believe how many flags I saw get thrown in that one game alone.
Man, you have to wonder if I don't know if the owner of the Jets sold his soul or something for that one Super Bowl and Super Bowl three, man. 'Cause they've had teams, man. They've had teams from the teams with Brett Favre to Mark Sanchez, even those first 2 years to now you have players. It's not like you don't have the players. I don't know if it's a coaching hire thing that you're missing or if it's culturally in the building, but something is wrong with the Jets to where you haven't even sniffed the Super Bowl since Super Bowl three. That's crazy. That is crazy, man. Or you get so close and then reject it time and time again. Uh, I don't know, man. They got to do something because this ain't it. And you try to draft quarterbacks and they are bust. So you go and get an established quarterback and he's not playing like the Aaron Rodgers of old. You know, I don't know if they thought maybe, oh, we'll just get the next Green Bay quarterback like we did last time. I have no idea, man. But something needs to give.
You did your worst teams of the week. I'm doing my most improved teams of the week. My most top 5 improved teams of the week. Number 1, I got to give it to Kansas City. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they always find a way to win. And Kansas City right now got one of the easiest schedules
Yeah, they do.
going in to the playoffs. Who's going to knock them off their throne? I don't know. We will see. Number two, I have to give it, even though they lost this week, it was a tough week. I get it, but he's still elite to me in my eyes. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens.
Nah,
It was a tough one. It's okay. Here's why I say the Baltimore Ravens. You got Lamar Jackson. You got Derrick Henry. You got receivers that can catch the ball. Lamar. And I got him being MVP again this year. Lamar Jackson and the things he can do with his legs, opening up receivers, getting his running back. They got one of the best running backs in the league right now, and Derrick Henry. If they keep utilizing Derrick Henry, Baltimore is going to be dangerous in the playoffs.
bro.
And
Derrick Henry is this generation's Adrian Peterson, man.
Yes, he is.
Like,
Yes, he is.
There's not a running back out there that's better than Derrick Henry in my mind.
And no. Number three, I got to give it to the Lions, man. Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. We had one of our viewers, and I agree with him. And he said this: if Jared Goff can be patient and don't force the ball down the field, and this goes for most quarterbacks, if you take your time and let the play develop, let the receivers have time to run their routes. A lot of quarterbacks like to just get rid of the ball quickly. I get it. I get it prevents you from getting hit. I get it prevents you from getting injured. But that's what's wrong with it. And if everybody wants to be fast, you can't be fast. You have to play to your strength. Number 4 this week that impressed me, I got to give it to the Niners, man. Because every time they play Dallas, they beat them. And I get that it wasn't by much, but right now, San Francisco owns Dallas. And they did this without Debo. They did this without Ayuk injured. McCaffrey's about to come back in a week or two, and they did it without him. Brock Purdy is really starting, in my eyes, develop to be one of those elite quarterbacks like a Josh Allen to me, if he takes his time and be patient. Once they get McCaffrey back, I believe McCaffrey's going to take some of that load off Purdy. But the problem in San Francisco is the receivers. It's not the tight end, because George Kittle is an elite tight end. Still is to this day in the NFL. The receivers got to be healthy. And number 5, I got to give it to Houston. It's a tie between Houston and Washington for number 5 for me. Because that play, that Jaden Daniels, and he did this with Bruce Ribs. Throwing that ball, having a time in the pocket to dish out the ball, to giving your team a chance or hope to win a game and stay on top of a division that is trash to me, ladies and gentlemen. The NFC East is trash. But you got this kid coming in here, and he's a superstar. He's putting on a show. He's a showstopper. He's going to be a quarterback in the future that everybody's going to watch. And they're going to be like, man, can this kid bring a Lombardi trophy to this franchise? Give it time. I think he probably will.
So I have to agree. I got to change up a couple of things. I'm taking Baltimore off the list completely because you lost. You took an L. And I'm putting Houston at the number 2 spot because I know it was the Colts, but it's the divisional game. And your divisional opponents know you the best. And regardless of if they have 1 win or 15 wins or whatever, it's your divisional opponent. And they came out and they struck first. And at number 5, I would place Washington because as great as they played, let's be honest, man, that last play was a miracle. It was a miracle,
was.
but they pulled it out. And this list to me is teams that have won. I can't put a loser in this team of the top quality teams of this season. Not just yet. So that's my top five.
Man. Coach of the week. Who you got for coach of the week?
Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one because there were a lot of great games.
Here's my two. I'm gonna give you my top two right now. It's right now my top two coaches to watch out for
Mhm.
is Andy Reid and Dan Campbell. And I see these two coaches possibly playing in the Super Bowl this year.
You know what? I have a coach of the week that you're not going to see coming, man. Coach of the week, the Cleveland Browns head coach. The reason I say that is because you start Jameis Winston, you get the job done and I think at this point they're starting to realize, man, we overpaid for Deshaun Watson. We overpaid for that man. If we could get the job done with a backup quarterback, and our so-called franchise guy has been, let's be honest, the drizzling shits. Yeah. So I gotta give it to him because, when you make decisions like that, those kind of decisions can cost you your job, man, regardless on if they get hurt or not. You know what I mean? So you put the right guy in, you got the right backup, you got the dub. That's my coach of the week.
With the playoffs blooming, because this NFL season is just getting better and better. With the playoffs blooming, who was your surprise team in both divisions to surprise people in the playoffs?
I would say in the NFC that my surprise team would be Detroit. And the only reason is because I know they've been good the last couple of years, but like I said before, they get so far and then they let it fall at their feet. So I think they're playing well. Dan Campbell has instilled confidence in Jared Goff. He's letting him go out and have fun, man, and I think that's what's important. Just letting him be him and not putting so much strain on him. So from the NFC, I picked the Lions. From the AFC, look, everyone can say the Chiefs, right? They're undefeated and all that. And I'm gonna go home and stick with one of the home teams, man. I'm gonna stick with the Houston Texans. I'm gonna stick with the Houston Texans because they find a way time and time again to get these wins, man. Yes, they have 2 losses, but the wins are incredible, and they're not against trash opponents. Like I said, divisional opponents, man. It don't matter if they're 0-16; they're still a divisional opponent. They know you. So, that's my 2 picks: Houston and Detroit.
You got 7 playoff spots in the NFC. You got 7 playoff spots in the AFC. In the NFC, I got Detroit 1. I'm going to put Philadelphia at 2.
Really? Even with the way that they're playing right now?
Even with the way that they're playing right now.
I don't know about all that.
I'm going to put the Vikings 3rd.
I don't know about all that. And see, look, this is the problem that I'm having. And this is why I only picked 2, right? Because if you look at the NFC, even the teams that you're mentioning, the Vikings, they got Sam Darnold, man. And I think they've been exposed. The Eagles, they have Jalen Hurts, who's been exposed. It's a toss-up. Look, you got teams like Dallas, who's supposed to be one of the mainstays of the NFC. Trash. You got teams like San Francisco. They're injured to all hell right now. So it's like, well, where do you go in the NFC outside of the Lions?
My take on that, when it comes to the playoffs, and we seen it last year, you have shockers, you have teams that we did not mention that put shockers like the Green Bay Packers. They shot, and here's where I'm going with this. Here's where I'm going with this. They made the playoffs, and who did they beat last year? They beat Dallas.
That's not saying much, bro. This is what Dallas is known for. They're known for shit in the bed, man.
But the year before that, Dallas was in the NFC Championship game, correct?
It does not matter. It does not matter, bro. Dallas, again, they were in the NFC Championship game in a conference that has 2 or 3 good teams in it. And this is what I was talking about when we talk about the GOAT, Tom Brady. He knew when it was time to leave the AFC. He knew, I'm going to go to the NFC, and they got Drew Brees, but Drew Brees is on the decline. He knew the NFC where it was and where it still is today. That is the problem. So, yeah, congratulations. You got to the NFC Championship. And guess what? Even with the shitty quality of teams that are in the NFC, you still couldn't get it done. So what are we talking about here?
I'm going to give you my pick, and it's going to shock you. The team that I see making noise in the NFC this year in the playoffs.
I think I know.
I'm going to give it to Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers.
I was wrong.
And here's why. Here's why. Once they get McCaffrey back, it opens up everything for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Christian McCaffrey is one of them elite running backs in the NFL. And every football team does this. If you don't have a good running game, you're not going to do much. You're not going to be successful. Ask the New York Giants and the New York Jets.
So, speaking of Giants, the team that I pick that can go all the way, surprisingly, in my surprise pick, the Washington Commanders. I think in the NFC right now, the Commanders are playing as good as any team. I think that they have the will, they have the talent, and they listen to their head coach. And I think that all that combined, they can go out and make some serious noise in the playoffs.
And the AFC, it's competitive with me. It's between 3 quarterbacks. Yeah. It's between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes.
Why? Wait, no. Why do you keep trying to put Lamar Jackson?
You know why?
Look, Lamar and the Ravens are the AFC's version of the Dallas Cowboys.
They are not. They are not. They are not.
Bro,
they are not.
Listen to me, man. Listen to me. That team should have been to the Super Bowl by now, multiple times. And yet, every time they enter the playoffs, the drizzling shits happen. They come across a team that figures them out. And when they figure them out, they press that self-destruct button, and it's over for the Ravens.
You know why I say the Ravens? And here's why. They almost beat the Chiefs if it wasn't for a toe. One toe. You mean to tell me that the Ravens is not going to be dangerous in the playoffs?
I didn't say they won't be dangerous. That's not what I said. What I said was they won't make it to the Super Bowl. That's what I said. They won't. Because the Ravens, they depend too much on one trick. They're one trick pony. That's it. And it's crazy because Lamar Jackson has an arm. He can throw the ball. But they don't depend on that. They're depending on that rushing attack. And if you get the right team that can stuff out that rushing attack with blitzes, or by hell, some of them have played 3-4. They got 4 men on the line. and they just let those four go at them, and they can stop the run that way. It's possible, man. And I don't know. They are in the same spot to me that Dallas was always in.
I got Baltimore at third. I got Buffalo at 2. Here's why I say Buffalo. Since acquiring Amari Cooper,
Mhm,
Josh Allen
mhm.
is simply he does it every year. But the problem with Buffalo to me is
They get started too late.
they get started too late
Mhm,
with all the talent that they have, and they think just because they acquired Amari Cooper that this is their chance to finally get it done and
mhm.
beat Kansas City this year. You have a good running back. Your defense is good. Not saying it's not great. It's good.
Look, man.
Can Josh Allen beat Patrick Mahomes? He's done it before, but
Yeah,
not in the playoffs.
not in the playoffs. Correct.
Not in the playoffs.
I think
So
Buffalo is
I'm
another
kind of
team.
iffy with Buffalo.
I think they're another team that's like cursed, bro. Like they had that four Super Bowl appearances back in the 90s, and they lost all of them. And it's kind of been the same thing. They haven't been back since. Um, but I like that top three. I would just switch out Baltimore with Houston. Why? Because Houston is on a winning track. You know, um, and Baltimore, they seem
Here's
Houston.
why I didn't put Houston
All right.
because they had two of the best receivers, both
Mhm.
of them out. Nico Collins was better than Stephon Diggs. He was leading the league in receiving yards and touchdowns.
Yeah.
When he went down, who else is going to step up for Houston? My
Look.
problem with Houston is the receivers.
Yeah.
Can these boys help CJ get it done in the playoffs?
That's the
Because
difference. Hey, that's the
that's
difference.
the thing
That's
with
the
me
difference,
right
though.
there.
That's the difference. CJ is the type of quarterback that when your number one and number two wide receiver go down, that three and four become one and two, and he still balls out because he knows how to play the game. There are certain quarterbacks that when their number one and number two go down, that is it for them. There's no more. You got to have a quarterback that knows how to spread the ball. And that's something that CJ Stroud knows how to do. He doesn't just focus on one receiver or this receiver. He focuses on the team. Whoever is open is who I'm throwing it to. And that is why I believe CJ Stroud is going to make it. That's why he's
You,
in my top three.
you know who's the key to Houston? It's not even CJ Stroud. It's not
Yeah.
even CJ Stroud. It's
Hmm.
their running back. It's Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon.
It's Joe Mixon. And I say this because you saw what he did in Cincy. That's the reason why Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl. They
Yeah.
didn't win, but Joe Mixon was the key to all of that. And that's why Houston snatched him up.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon is a running back that can open up anything for anybody, including CJ Stroud.
Yes, he is.
And that's the key to me. If Houston is going to be successful, it doesn't start with CJ Stroud. It starts with Joe Mixon.
I agree.
What are your final thoughts on this week, brother?
My final thoughts are the teams that we thought were going to be the drizzling shits, they've proven to be just that. There's starting to be a separation of talented teams, of actual competitors and actual contenders from the teams that were pretending or the pretenders. Um, and right now, while we're at the halfway point of the season, I see the playoff picture taking shape. Now, the NFC again is wide open because I don't know, man. It's just wide open. There's really no top leaders other than maybe Detroit. But that AFC is wild, man, and it's starting to show who can really hang. And I'm excited to see the rest of the season.
I'm excited to see the rest of the season too. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, tune in this week. My brothers at the Family Meeting Podcast this week is Halloween. So tune in this week. They got something special going on for y'all. My brother Mel, my brother Nappy, Tori, Beast, tune in to that. They got something special. Also, tune in this Saturday, this weekend. I know everybody's going to be watching Crown Jewel. I'm probably going to be one of those that's going to be watching it. But tune in this weekend. My brother Beast, new show, with yours truly being co-host, Over the Barricade. Tune into that this weekend as we recap the world in professional wrestling. Folks, that was our week 8 recap of 100 yards and running. Tune in next week as we recapping week 9. Plus, we got breaking news, trade deadlines, much more to talk about in the NFL. I want to thank my viewers. I want to thank my brother, August, for tuning in with us for another edition of 100 yards of running. This is your boy Reggie. Peace and love to all of y'all. We out of here. See y'all next week.
Yeah.